good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to our second session of the Cadre Symposium 2022, A Day in the Life. My name is Anna Swardinsky. I am the Director of Planning, Training, and Community Resilience for Cadre, and we're going to get underway with our welcome remarks and moving ourselves forward into small group discussion. So, as we get underway, if you would open up your chat window and please put your first name and your organization in the chat box so we can begin to get to know one another. Some of you have changed your Zoom window as well to reflect your name and organization. Susie, Team Rubicon, thank you. Francis, County Behavioral Health. If you wouldn't mind changing your Zoom window to show your name at the top. The way you do that is you click those three little dots in the upper right corner next to your video, and it allows you to rename yourself right there. Let's see. In terms of other housekeeping, as you learned in our opening session this morning, one of the challenges we face is related to communication, and it's whether the information that is being shared is accessible to all who want and need it. And so here at Cadre, we recognize that we have not solved this challenge fully ourselves, but we are committed to doing better. So for today's session, we are offering both Zoom and Otter AI live transcription. And if you need any assistance with that, I am your access and technical assistance lead. I should show up at the very top of your participants list, and you're welcome to send me a private chat message if you need assistance for any accessibility purposes. We are recording today's session as well. And so if you are going to speak aloud for any reason in either the large group or your small groups, we do ask, if possible, that you turn on your video camera for assistance with the communication as well. And with that, I think I'm going to move us forward a slide and introduce Cadre's Executive Director, Marcia Hovey. Oops, Marcia, you get to share your screen now.
I do. Good morning,
Good afternoon.
That was this morning. Good afternoon, everyone. And we're just going to take a moment to give you a word from one of our sponsors. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So this is a new app that has been released through a partnership with UC Berkeley, a bunch of universities, and the California Office of Emergency Services. It's called My Shake. You can see on your screen QR codes to get to the App Store for Apple phones and to get to the Android Google Play Store if you would like to download this. And I highly encourage it because what it does is give you a few seconds of warning before an earthquake starts to shake the ground. It's measuring the sound waves that are happening prior to the ground shake. And so it's not a lot of time, but it's a start. And at the moment, it will give you a chance to step off a ladder, get off the roof, not be near a glass window or some other hazard. So it'll give you a couple of moments. And so I'm going to just leave that QR code there for just a second in case anybody wants to scan it with their phone. And I can come back to it later if you need it. And you can also just Google it and you'll find both of the links. Let me see if I can get...
Earthquake. Drop cover, hold on. Shaking expected. Earthquake. Drop cover, hold on. Shaking expected.
So that the alert only comes out in English, but anyone that downloads the app will recognize that alert sound and know that it means an earthquake's coming. So we're still working on trying to get translations, but at the moment, the sound is what's going to tell you. And then the second thing is that with this United Way grant, they have given us funds. We've developed a It's called When Seconds Count, Earthquake Safety in Your Home. It is specifically designed for individuals. It has nothing to do with emergency response. It's what you need to know at your house in order to stay safe when the ground shakes. And in the process of explaining that and having them work through the concerns that happen after an earthquake, like turning off the gas, or what happens if there's a fire, what if your building looks unstable, what does unstable building look like? They start to put the pieces together on what they need to do to prepare ahead of time. It's going to be available in at least 7 languages. You can see the languages at the bottom of the screen: English, American Sign Language, Spanish, Vietnamese, Korean, Filipino, Tagalog, Russian, and Chinese. And if you would like to have a live or Zoom presentation of this, it's about a 35-minute presentation and then questions and answers. Just email us at earthquake@cadresv.org and we'll be happy to schedule that for you. And you can also go to the Cadre website at the top of the screen, cadresv.org/earthquake, or you can shorten it to EQ. And we've already started posting written materials there. The recordings will also be there, so that from now on, if you don't speak English or the main languages in Santa Clara County, you will still have access to good information related to how to prepare for the next earthquake. And any questions about that? Okay, so now we go back to Anna's screen.
Yep, I'll be right there.
Okay.
And off you go. It's still you.
All right. So we're here this afternoon. For those of you that were here this morning, you already know. But for those of you that are just joining us, we are going to be spending the next 2 days, 2.5 days, working through different scenarios related to CMIST categories. And CMIST is the framework that we use to do disaster planning for people with access and functional needs. And if you, let me see, recap them, it's communication, health, independence, support, safety, and self-determination, and transportation. Oh, there it is. And what we're going to be doing is walking through this fire scenario and the different elements of what happens after a fire. You get a notice, you have to respond to a shelter, you are now have to figure out how to recover from this event. So we're going to assign each day a different element of the response and recovery to all of us. We will go to breakout rooms and we will pick personas. We did this morning, so the personas there'll be more going forward. This morning we just gave you a taste. But what the personas are individual, where we've identified and named individuals that have different access needs or different functional needs. And you get to pick one and then walk through the scenario as if you were that person, which gives you a whole different perspective on what disaster response and recovery looks like. And let's see, there is, if you want more information on the CMIST categories, we've already put a whole bunch of resources on the Cadre website under the webinars, which is on the preparedness page. So if you go to cadresv.org/preparedness, the very first link you'll see is webinars, and the symposium is there. And we have a bunch of resources there from June Isaacson Kales, who you're going to hear from tomorrow. There is a CMIST, she called it Reinventing CMIST, and there's that document in there if you want to read more, and then a whole bunch of other resources that we found as we were doing the research for this presentation. And I think that's
Next.
I think it's going to Anna next.
Yes, so what we're going to be using for any of you who missed this morning's practice session is we are going to be using Google Jamboards, and we're going to capture information during your small group discussions using that tool. We do encourage you to use a laptop or desktop device if possible, because the screens are bigger than phones or tablets. But if you are using a device that is smaller and or you're not comfortable with Google Jamboards, your small group facilitators will be requesting at the opening of your breakout if you have any access needs, and there'll be an ability for folks to just speak aloud during the discussion, and the notes would be put up for you on the Google Jamboards. So with that, I'm going to do a quick two-slide, well, actually just one slide, 2 buttons I want to show you about Google Jamboards if you missed this morning's session. On the far left is a blue arrow pointing to a little box that is what's called a sticky note. We're going to be using the sticky note feature in Jamboards. You click that, it pops open a window and you can type information in there. The other reminder is the blue arrow in the middle of your screen with a red circle and a slash mark over the words clear frame. Please do not touch clear frame. It erases everything for you and all of us. So if you do nothing else, do not touch that little button. Okay, when we go to the small group sessions, once your rooms open up, your facilitator will put a link in the chat for the specific board, discussion board that your room will use. Thank you to all of you this morning for helping us work through some minor technical glitches. We got those all squared away, we hope, for right now. And we think your link should work seamlessly for this afternoon's session. And so with that, I'm going to push us forward to Cindy to explain our next part.
My name is Cindy Stewart. We're going to go directly into our exercise this afternoon. And the disaster time frame of this exercise is that we're talking about initial disaster alert and warning. So you're just being alerted or warned about whatever the disaster is. Some disasters don't have warnings. I realize that, but this one does. So go with us if you would. In this situation, what we want to do is, I'm going to read the scenario out loud to you to begin with, and then your breakout rooms will have facilitators that will have access to the scenario, and even if you would like, they can put that into the chat so that you'll have access to it going forward. The scenario is not huge. It's not necessary to the that all the details of it are in place for the entire scenario or for the entire exercise. And just recognize that it is the framework of the exercise. It's not going to be perfect necessarily. There could potentially be, in an alert and warning situation, someone that won't be able to get any information, or, you know, it just go with it if you can. Okay, so pick the persona that you see on the screen when you get to your breakout rooms. Pick one and go with, follow the instructions that your facilitators give you. Okay. So the scenario for today is that you live in the downtown area of your city at the corner of 2nd Street and Harding Street. It's early morning. You wake up to your phone ringing. If you don't have a phone or you're hearing impaired, you might not even wake up. In real life, there could be different ways to learn about the incident. Maybe a police officer or a firefighter knocks on your door. For those of you that can receive the message, you answer the phone and this is what you hear. This is an emergency notice from Alert SCC. There is a multi-unit fire in the downtown area. If you live in the vicinity of Main and 4th Street, between Market and Harding, you need to evacuate the area immediately. A temporary evacuation site is being established in the McDonald's parking lot on 5th and Harding. This concludes this alert SCC message. Now, for the emergency managers in the room, I apologize for the ambiguity of the message. I know you guys try really hard to make your messages as clear and concise as possible. But for this scenario, let's just go with, this is the message. Maybe it was a new person giving the message out. I don't know. This is the message, and try not to get caught up in, the event itself, but rather focus on the individual experience that your persona is going to have. Okay. Most disaster response systems are designed for people who can walk, run, see, drive, read, hear, speak, and quickly understand the response and respond to instructions and alerts. That might not be your situation. Next slide.
And I think we're going to go to breakout rooms right now.
All right, so just for the recording again, my name is Ginny. I am the Disaster Program Manager for the Red Cross. I sit on the board for Cadre, representing Mass Care, and I am your group facilitator today. So while I'm getting things up and running, how about we go around and all introduce ourselves? I'm just going to let anybody take it.
Hi, I'm Linda.
I'll go
I'm
first.
I'm with Rebuilding Together Silicon Valley, a nonprofit, and I'm the Associate Finance and Operations Director.
And I'm Paul Marshall. I'm with CalDART. We have 3 DARTs in Santa Clara County, 1 at each of our airports. We provide disaster air transportation services with general aviation aircraft.
My name is Fernando Limon. I work with the San Jose Conservation Corps, and I'm the Emergency Shelters Manager.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Valerie Espinosa, and I am with Cal OES Individual Assistant.
It might just be you, Cindy. Or are you just observing?
You guys know me. I'm Cindy Stewart. I'm just lurking.
You're just lurking. Awesome. Thank you for lurking with us, Cindy. So I've placed into the chat, you should all be able to see it. There's a link to our breakout rooms Google Jamboard. If you can all click on that and let me know if you have access to it. That's where we're going to be working today for this breakout session. All right, I got a thumbs up from Paul. I can see 2 people are in there. Yep, got you, Fernando.
I can see it, yes.
You got it? Okay. So I am on slide 2, which you can see from my shared screen. Slide 1 has everybody's personas. So let's take a minute to look at the personas. And when you're ready, you can go to slide 2 and practice doing the sticky notes by putting a sticky note onto this page with the name of your persona. And if you would like for me to review how to do the sticky notes and add to it, just let me know.
We're supposed to go to this, the second slide, which is the same one that you're on right now for small group activity, correct?
Yeah, you can post it on the second slide. That way it gives us a chance to practice and it lets everybody know which persona that you
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Was it? Great. Linda, are you able to see the personas? Oh, you're still muted.
Yes, I can see it.
Okay.
The thing is though, I'm on a different, I clicked on the link
Uh-huh.
and I'm on the board that I opened and I wrote on it. You guys can't see my message. Oh, I wrote it on slide 3. That's why.
You're on slide 3. Oh, okay. All right, no problem. All right, so you're going to be Linda. So then let's start working on part A. Let's take a couple minutes. I put the scenario back in the chat again, so that way now that you have persona, you can review it again from the perspective of your persona. How can you receive the message from Alert SCC? Go ahead and take a minute to think about that and then put a sticky note on the board that says part A about how your persona can receive that message.
Hey, Jenny, this is Anna. Just checking in that everything worked for you this time.
I think so. I haven't heard, nobody had any issues, right? I got thumbs up from all of you, so.
Where do you
Okay.
want us to put the answers in? What slide are you on? 4? 3?
So we're on slide 3 for the first question. Can you receive the message?
Okay.
So we just want to see from all the personas, how many of you can actually receive this message? All right, so I have 2 of you are receiving it directly. 1 of you is a maybe and 1 is unsure. Paul, I think you were the one that said unsure, right? Who is your persona again? Is that Eddie?
Eddie, the 80-year-old with bad hearing, and the wife has dementia.
And why do you think you're unsure that you even signed up for it?
Well, I get a lot of messages from Santa Clara County, and I know I have signed up for the app, and I have the app on my phone. My understanding is that Eddie at 80 years old probably isn't such a gung-ho guy and probably hasn't signed up. And so I think the county also has the ability to phone residents through PG&E or something like that, but that begins to get above my pay grade. I'm not sure what the county could do and whether this would get to me.
Fair enough. And does anybody else in this group know if the county could is everything you have to sign up by yourself for that? Like even through PG&E? There's nothing automatic, is there? I don't think any of us know. That's okay. That's a question for later on. All right. All right, so for part 2, thinking from the perspective of your persona, how can you act on this message if you were able to receive it? So we're on slide 4. Go ahead and put your answers there. Is anybody feeling really concerned about their persona right now? If they're able to get help or act quickly during this emergency?
I'm concerned that I'm going to sleep through it and get burned up and won't realize there's a problem until it's getting hot and smoky and I'm coughing.
Yeah, I'm concerned because I'm very young. I can't see. I have COVID. And I could evacuate, but it'll be a slow process and I need to stay away from people at the same time. So this is going to be difficult. It will
And
not
if
be
you-
fast.
If you have COVID, you may not even be able to smell the smoke.
Oh, yeah, that's a fair point.
Well, you might not be, well, that's one of the symptoms, but a lot of people don't get that symptom at all. I think
And,
my
and you're a
eye,
minor too, right, Linda?
what? I'm a
You're a
minor.
minor
yeah.
also?
I'm a minor, I'm only 15.
So we don't even know if her parents are home.
Yeah, I don't know if I got the message, so I'm assuming I got the message
Okay.
somehow. But if I don't even know if I got the message.
Okay. I'm gonna move on ahead. We'll let Fernando catch up with us. All right. So I think at this point, let's take a couple minutes to write down all the concerns, challenges, and barriers you have, and then we can talk about them once we're done and see if others can identify them as well. Hey, Fernando, we just moved on ahead. I didn't know how long you were going to be. So if you want to go back to the second slide, you can, but if not, you can just jump straight to this one.
Sorry, yes, we had a little situation here.
No,
I'm a little lost.
totally understand.
I'll catch up. Which slide are we in?
We're on number 5 now. So
Okay,
now we're
so
so now we're
formulating
just talking
answers to those
about from your
questions.
persona. If you have the concerns, challenges, or barriers your persona would have with acting on this message or even receiving both. So I can see the one sticking out that's already been placed on the slide, talking about moving around on crutches. That's a really good point. We don't know what kind of building you live in right now. Are you in one with stairs? Were you relying on an elevator to get around on your crutches before there was a fire? Do you have access to that now that there is a fire? So that's a really important concern and barrier right there. And also the medication. We all know we leave in a hurry. We don't think about grabbing those things before we head out the door. Who put that one? I think it was for Robin.
I put one about my wife having dementia. I'm not sure if I can walk with her or move her in a wheelchair, or if she's so bad and I'm so frail that I need some kind of a safety officer to go get her.
So would that mean you would have to be calling out for assistance then? You would just sit and wait?
You know, I would hope that I would either call for assistance with the phone, or maybe I would go out and try to get somebody and say, this is where my wife is, can you go get her? I suspect a lot of people just cower and hold on to their loved one and wait for help to come, which probably is not the most effective thing to do.
I see we have two for Maria. Concerns about being able to get out, physically tired because of COVID. That's a really good point. Maybe you don't know how exhausted they are. They may not even be able to move themselves. Do you see a pattern here among all of the concerns and barriers that we've been talking about?
Does it have to
One
do with
pattern I
access?
see.
And
Go ahead.
we're talking mobilization and independence. It sounds like there's some kind of CMIST in there somewhere.
I'm seeing a lack of independence looking at this. It seems like all of the personas you've chosen really need help from somebody else to respond to this emergency and get out of their home safely. Assuming that they got the message. Are there any other barriers or challenges that you guys have thought about that maybe aren't on the slide right now, but you'd like to mention?
Well, how about if I'm in an apartment building and I'm 80 years old? Normally I would take the elevator down the 20 floors to get to the bottom, but now the elevator stopped because there's a fire. And now what the heck am I going to do?
I'd say another thing that I just thought of, if you're 80 years old, do you have a cell phone? Are you able to take that with you?
Can I use it?
Ginny, I just beamed Jennifer Ponce into your room.
Oh, that's
from
exciting.
video.
Hi, Jennifer.
Glad that's exciting. I got kicked out of the other one.
Oh, well, I'm happy about that. Now you're with us.
Hi, everybody. I'll be quiet.
No, I mean, you could talk a little bit. So Jennifer, I just put the link to our Jamboard in the chat. I didn't know if you'd be able to see it earlier. So I don't know if you feel like picking a persona right now, or if you just want to jump in on conversation.
I'm happy to. Do I make up something that would be a challenge? Is that what we're doing? Make up?
So I'll go back to the first page for you. Here on the first page, all the personas. The ones that have been selected so far are Maria, Robin, and Eddie.
All right. I'll pick. I'll pick the Robin one, the 52-year-old.
Oh, Robin's already been selected.
Oh, okay.
But once you pick somebody, you can let us know your concerns or challenges or barriers that you think they have, or I'll repaste the message.
Jennifer, were you able to get into the board for this room?
I'm here. I think I'm behind everybody else, but I don't want to slow anyone down. I'll just pick it up from here.
Hey, quick question. Does anybody know about the machines that people use to stay alive when they get, and how they keep using those machines when they're under transport? I'm looking at Pedro, who's a quadriplegic and uses several power dependent devices. Like, oh my God, what do you do when you move him somewhere? You know, how many amps does he need? How many watts? And how long can he go without his devices before he starts getting in trouble?
Yeah, there's a lot to consider there with Pedro. I'll add some of those thoughts in, Paul.
Say again, Jenny?
I'm gonna add those thoughts that you had. I'm gonna put them on a note and write them down.
Okay.
Jennifer Ponce, this is Anna. Open your chat window. I'll help you get connected.
Open. I think
Your
I'm
Zoom
there. I
chat.
just don't know what I'm supposed to do.
Right. So can you open your Zoom chat in your control panel?
Uh-huh.
Okay, I'll help you through that.
Thanks.
All right, so while you're helping her, let's move on to part B. Part B, we're gonna switch. We're gonna move back to who we are in our day job, in our regular roles, what we do when there's an emergency response. What do you think, from your perspective of who you are, your organization, could have been done differently to address the needs and the concerns we shared about our procedures? We're on slide 6. And we have a really good mix of people in here. So this is a great time to share feedback that you think, you know, somebody from government should hear something, think somebody from another organization should hear it. Like this, yes. Get the county to have an alert system that can contact everybody, not just those that opt in. I made that one bigger. I think that's pretty important considering we're not even sure who was able to receive it in the first place. We didn't know if they were able to opt in.
A lot of people don't have the technical capability to opt in. So you almost want to put them in and give them the option of opting out.
Right, like I remember when I signed up for it, I had to go online, create a profile, enter in my address, select all sorts of different options for what I wanted to be notified of. It's a lot. Then you have to remember the password and the login.
Yeah, my 88-year-old mother-in-law isn't going to do any of that. And she's the one that most needs it.
Someone put include AFN needs in the emergency alert. Could you expand on what you mean by that?
You want them to expand orally or in their sticky note?
They can expand orally. They can just come off of mute and expand.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I was
Sorry.
writing it in my
No,
sticky note. I was editing it. No problem. So just including those needs in the emergency alert, you know, maybe saying our meeting point is fully accessible, or we will have trained medics on site to address any medical or access and functional needs as once you arrive. You know, maybe as soon as just have something sort of an intake. So as soon as people arrive, you know, if you see somebody coming up on crutches, or if you see somebody coming up who is, you know, quadriplegic or does have somebody that and cannot move, you know, to more or less, you know, be able to separate them from the crowd so they can get the care that they need. Essentially, if you have a bunch of people running into one designated area, you can very easily trample someone who is injured and cause further injury. People, I mean, we can see this daily as we're driving on the road. People do not have any concern for others. So you can see somebody who is in a wheelchair, very easily push them and knock them over, push them off the path. What if they can't control it themselves and somebody's pushing them? It could be an elderly couple, they're both frail, and if somebody falls, then it's going to cause additional, pain and suffering there. So I would just want a statement included saying, definitely, the building or parking lot is fully accessible, and we will have trained staff on site to, to assist with any needs that you may need.
Thank you, Val. I see the one that says we're a nonprofit, we have a BCP. Could you come off of mute and explain what a BCP is?
Oh, it's a business continuity plan. And
Okay.
so we have one for our organization, and then we're extended it to our clients. We work with the elderly and disabled oftentimes. And but there's no way that we would be able to get them out in time, but we could check on them afterwards and do some follow-up, which we have even with COVID. Even when COVID first came, we did wellness calls. So we can do something similar to our homeowners that we work with. And then, of course, offer our services in the community if they need repairs, but we do mostly minor repairs and some major repairs.
Okay. So people that work with your nonprofit, they would most likely be contacting you following this fire.
Potentially, well, not necessarily. We'd probably be more like doing a wellness call to see if they've been affected and if they're okay. We deal a lot with that. They would have to apply to our program if they wanted to get repairs done. We work through the HUD and with the community block grants, CDBG funding. So like when the floods happened in San Jose, we were able to assist. We came in as an organization and helped. We could probably do something similar. We would go out and outreach and let people know about our services. And if they qualify for our program, we would be able to reach and help them in that way.
Got it. Thank you, Linda.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the last sticky note that we have on here is the shelter environment. Learn about physical and mental barriers for all people in your environment. I don't know who placed that sticky note, but would you like to come? Yeah, Fernando, could you come up with you and expand more about how this
Sure.
relates to the, yeah, thank you.
Yes, we have a few emergency shelters. The biggest one housing 75 clients, and they have different disabilities and they have mental health issues. So whenever we have fire drills, there's many things that we have to consider. One, the actual alarm triggering people. Two, mobility issues. Three, people just not wanting to move. So we've created a strategy where we're open 24/7. So during each shift, each person has a different role, and those roles can be switched around depending on our staffing. And they all take care of a certain population, make sure they are safe. And we also have some clients that are able to assist as well. They have minor tasks during those drills in order to be able to evacuate all of our clients in a timely manner.
Awesome, thank you. So if Linda's organization was doing wellness checks and they learned that some people needed assistance with getting to shelters, is that something that they could contact you for? Or
Yes, definitely. We do have to contact emergency services quite often. And wellness checks are something that is needed instead of just calling the sheriff.
All right.
That's good to know, because usually when we do wellness calls, we definitely prepare a list of resources that we can give them. That's what we did when COVID first came. So it would be similar. We would have list of organizations that might be able to help them, especially if they needed immediate assistance. They had nowhere to live, for example. So it's good to know, Fernando.
Wonderful. I'll text you my contact information, Linda, and we can get in touch.
Awesome.
Great, thank you.
Now, Jennifer, I don't know if you got a chance to catch up.
Hi, everybody. Sorry about the technology issues.
Don't worry
So
about it.
I chose Xander. Did anybody else choose Xander?
No.
Xander's a 28-year-old with anxiety and is uncomfortable with crowds and loud noise. And I chose that person because although my brother's in his 50s, that describes him. So I am putting my mind in how these issues would affect him.
So when you're thinking about how the scenario plays out, he gets a phone call that's telling him he needs to evacuate and go to this place. Is kind of a vague message. From your position where you are with OES, how do you think it could have been done differently?
I love this discussion. I don't want to throw you guys off in another direction. I'm actually the person here at Morgan Hill Police that does the alert SCC messages. And so this is really giving me a lot to think about because honestly, guys, don't be disappointed in me. I'm always thinking about the message and I'm trying to keep it simple, but I've never thought about all these different types of individuals who are receiving the messages. So this is an eye opener. I think for Xander, who has trouble with anxiety, getting the alert SCC would be fine, but that individual probably would start shutting down as soon as they heard there was an emergency and probably not pay a lot of attention to the rest of the message. So that's something that gives me concern. I'll also tell you guys with alert SCC, although we all pick different ways to be notified, the very first one that you acknowledge is the way you receive the message. And in my experience, 90-something% of the people are getting it on text, and that there are very few characters that are allowed on text, which is unfortunate. So this is a really tricky scenario. I think it would be important for us to activate a call center and make sure in our message that we directed people to a call center to get more information. I hope that is helpful.
It is. I like that perspective. I think it's cool that we actually have somebody on here that does send out this message. We can get a totally different perspective on this scenario.
Hey,
Totally.
Jennifer,
Yeah. This is a great discussion.
We had a question come up about how the system works. I'm under the impression that Alert SCC only goes out to those people who actively sign up for it. So
unless they have an old school telephone, that is true. But most people don't have home phones anymore. Most people are all cell based. If you have a home phone, you would get the message. But I can tell you again from statistics, it's very, very low. There is the WIA system that will hit. Sometimes we activate the WIA system, which hits the cell tower. So if somebody's driving by a certain cell tower, they don't necessarily live where they've been, they would also get the message. I'm a big believer in Alert SCC, but I'm disappointed countywide how few people are registered.
Are there any ideas or pushes to help more people be registered from your level?
I think, I'm thinking back to the SCU Lightning Complex fires. We did a ton of Alert FCC messages warning people, telling them that there was a pending evacuation coming and different zones were going to be evacuated at different times. I think something good that came out of that were the people that didn't get the message that said, hey, man, I didn't get that message. And then it's like, well, sign up and you will. So every chance I get, I always say to people, if you want to get the message, you got to sign up. I think, it would be nice if the local news would do on-camera interviews with people that have had experience, and it'd be really nice if it would have been nice if the news would have focused on those messages, and then somebody sitting at home would go, oh my gosh, I got to register.
So Jennifer, are you very close to the people who manage the system for the county?
I am very close. Yeah.
So here's a couple of bitches for you. I've been signed up for it for 3 years, probably, or 4 years. And lately I've been getting messages in the middle of the night on bona fide emergency situations that I can't do anything with because I'm far away from the situation and I'm cloistered.
Yeah.
And I get the first message at 12:30 a.m. when I went to bed at 11 p.m. And then I get the second message at 1:30 p.m., 1:30 a.m. on my, via telephone call, whereas the first one was a text.
And you're
so I
probably
get woken
talking
up in the middle
about,
of the night twice. So
well,
I
Paul,
can't do
was it the
anything. Yep.
missing person in San Jose? Was
Yeah,
that one?
exactly. So
Yeah.
there's been a couple of them, Amber.
Yeah, we
Alert type
had
things.
a post after action discussion about that, and I think you'll see less of that because you're absolutely right. And just to let everybody know, you can register for any city in the county. So I register for Morgan Hill, and I register because I work here, but my parents live in San Jose, so I also signed up for San Jose. But I didn't sign up for Sunnyvale or Mountain View or anything like that.
And I think as organizations, I mean, at least our organization, we can let our clients know about that. It's all about informing if they don't know, especially with the elder population. They may not be aware or so it's just about letting them know so that service is available. So they.
Linda, where do you work? Where do you work, Linda?
Rebuilding Together Silicon Valley.
Okay. Anytime that any of the organizations that are on here, anytime that you feel it would be beneficial to have somebody come in person and talk about the alert system, I'm pretty sure the county would be happy to do that. We have a working group. I am part of that. Sometimes, I mean, I always say, hey, I got an A in typing. I'm terrible at technology, but we can always open up our laptops and help other people register, can't we? Right?
Yeah.
No big deal.
Yeah. I mean, some people know, some people don't, or some people don't know how to use it, or some people can't because of their disability. So
exactly.
It's just maybe, it could be a part of our materials, because it's important, because what can we do? I mean, that's one thing as we can do as an organization to help our customer base. Maybe include it in our information, something when we send it out.
Yeah, and of course, it always goes back to the very basic message, which is so hard for all of us on this call to deliver, but it's everybody's responsibility to be ready.
Yeah.
And there are people, AFN people that can't do that, but then it's up to their hopefully they have someone that they live with, or that can help them with that horrible message is what we always go back to. People aren't coming for you. You've got to be ready, right?
Quick question about the mechanics of the evacuation. It says when I look at the chat message, the original message we received, it says there's a temporary evacuation site at the McDonald's on 5th Street or something like that. And it occurred to me that maybe we're supposed to go there, or maybe it's strictly optional. My take on it is that it's optional, that if I need services or something, I can go there. But earlier I heard that people were checking in, and that seemed good too, that you'd want to know that people are out of the building or something like that. So a check-in point would be good. So how is that handled, and what's the particular meaning in this message?
For the two complex fires, a temporary evacuation point was set up at Sobrato High School, which is on the north end of Morgan Hill, almost touching San Jose. And it was interesting because most of the people that showed up were from the Santa Cruz fire, and that's because that was farther away for them. When I see that message about McDonald's, that's a good message. The only thing that's confusing to people when you get a message and it says, if you live between A and B, that kind of freaks people out sometimes. It's like, what did they say? What street? So sometimes when we're sending the message, it's better to send it to the people that it is relevant to, so that someone's not having to go, gee, am I between this street and that street? You know, it's up to us to be as clean, clear and concise as we can.
Do you have
So are
the
you saying
ability to
narrow the
select
focus
it
of
that
the
way?
message?
Okay, welcome back, everyone. And let's see, I think we have everyone back in the main room at this point. And so let's go ahead and hear a little bit of key takeaways. Did you have any aha moments or kind of key takeaways from your discussion? And let's start with Rich's room. Do you have a spokesperson, Rich?
Yes, we do. It's going to be a team effort, but primarily Marisol is going to be our spokesperson.
So for our group, for question number 1, can you receive the message? Primarily, everyone received the message except for Maria, who Maria and Eddie didn't receive the message. And
Brigitte.
And Bridget, yes, and Bridget. Sorry, I'm trying to go through the notes. And Xander, Robin, they received the alert, and Eddie did not receive the message.
Marisol, what kind of key takeaways did your group have?
For our group,
just a couple of key takeaways.
So what we highlighted was that predominantly in our group, the group have not heard of CMS, the CMS framework. And so what we learned is that it's a good framework to include in our planning efforts. Behavioral health is currently working on their DOC, so coming to and working through the different barriers and challenges with the personas will help them build their DOC for to include CMS framework. Those are a few of the highlights that I have written down. Anyone else in the group want to share something else?
Okay, let's go ahead and go to Liz and Marcia's room. And then Jenny, your room will be up next.
Francie's reporting off to answer those questions.
Just some key takeaways, Francie.
Okay, I think we got some good things to work on later. The first thing that came up in the first slide was that the evacuation site that was chosen was not very good. It wasn't really accessible. It was a small parking lot, and it wasn't really suitable for all those people to go there and be taken care of. So we thought maybe we would suggest like working ahead of time to make a list of the best evacuation points in each area so that there wouldn't have to be discussion at that time, because once it's been chosen and stated, it can't change really. Another one was, it would be loaned by, the job would be owned by the local government, the city first, if it's a small thing. And how soon would they call the Red Cross to come and help with, looking at the situation and who needs medication, who needs referrals to other places. We might remind them to call the Red Cross right away if there's any temporary evacuation point, just to inform us that it's happening. And then we could let the other agencies know. The person with COVID, we were going to ask the Department of Health, what would they say to somebody like that, that's 15 and sick with COVID and at home, because does she, how does she evacuate? Does she get in a car with somebody else? Does she, even with a mask? We just wanted to get advice, what would they tell somebody to do at that time? Who should she call to get safely out? And I think we also learned that if you call Alert SCC, that a deaf person will automatically, if they've signed up for the federal communication relay program, that they automatically receive it translated into ASL on their screen. I didn't know that. So those are the things we learned in our session.
Great, thank you, Francie. Jenny, who's reporting out for your room?
It's me. So in our group, we noticed a trend with the all the personas that we picked, and that was their independence was heavily impacted by this evacuation notice. They all in some way needed to rely on somebody either to get the notice or to actually evacuate once the notice was received. And we had a larger discussion about what we could do to improve and focus a lot about what needs to be done before an emergency actually occurs. There are ways that we could connect to other resources. That way, organizations that do welfare checks when an emergency occurs, they would know better resources to call upon if they do have to support some of their clients in an evacuation. We also got really lucky in that we did have somebody very familiar with sending out alert SEC messages. And so we got to talk about that and how we could better improve registration to alert SEC so people are receiving notices, how alert SEC itself could be more narrowly focused when sending out this type of message so that only the people who really do need it are receiving it.
All right, awesome report. Thank you, Jenny. And Sherry for the main room. Do you have a report out for us?
Yeah, I didn't get to that asking for a volunteer, so I'll start off. And if any of my participants in my room would like to chime in, that would be great. Really appreciate it. So very similar to what Jenny was sharing is that, you know, when we rely a lot on other people and sometimes on devices, could be durable medical equipment or assistive technology devices for our independence in, you know, every aspect of life. And when those are not there or taken away from us, is that it really does cause barriers that we normally wouldn't experience. So some of the things we came up with that were barriers were personal of you know, responsibility of talking about how we need as individuals who have a specific access and functional need would need to, you know, go the next step and participate in a CERT or NERT training, trying to maybe even coordinate within our neighborhoods to have that done ahead of time so that those relationships were set up of what skills I have as well as what particular needs I have. Outside of that, working to establish relationships with other folks. Even for Manny, living in an encampment is having relationships with other encampment mates to help each other out, to offer support. And then, you know, some of these things can be addressed with planning at the emergency responder level and with our emergency services, like to make sure that we have trained staff at the evacuation point to assist with our finding resources with various needs, make sure that there are volunteers or emergency responders to guide people of how to get to the McDonald's. There was several people who had no idea how to get to the McDonald's parking lot. And was there an accessible route to get there if they use a mobility device or crutches? So making sure, again, that there's folks there to help assist along the way. Having an accessible transportation arrangement set up. So if that was a temporary site, then we would need transportation to get wherever to the more long-term sheltering site. Making sure there's multiple ways to provide the alerts and notify residents of an emergency, not just one system in place, but as you know, Cindy said in the beginning, you know, making sure you're getting that alert in the languages that are that they are at least covering the languages that are the threshold languages for our area, to make sure that you have the text, speech to text for those that are deaf or hard of hearing, those kinds of things, and knocking on doors and all of that kind of stuff. Is that there's multiple things that need to be in place, both personally as well as community-wise.
Hey, thank you. Thank you, Sherry. And thank you to everyone who participated. If there were other key takeaways that you heard in your room, either for you personally or within your roles as an organization, feel free to put a couple of remarks in the chat for us of key takeaways or aha moments for you individually that your spokesperson may not have covered in their remarks, just so we can have as a robust report out as we possibly can. And so with that, I thank you all for that portion of our program. we want to remind you about what's coming up next with our Cadre Symposium. As I said this morning, there is consider this like a 3-day long conference. So we do have sessions tomorrow morning starting at 9 a.m. We're going to do a very similar discussion exercise that you went through this afternoon. The focus of the morning discussion will be on response relief, and so it'll be a different time period of the disaster. You'll pick personas that might be slightly different than you had today in the program, and you'll have your choice to go into rooms as well. And I'm seeing, okay, I'm not sure if Shanitka wants to speak aloud. Oh, I see that we have input coming in. Sorry, I'm checking the chat. So the session tomorrow will be very similar in the morning to this today's afternoon session. And then starting at 11 a.m., we have a keynote speaker, June Isaacson-Kales, joining us. She's the creator of the CMIST categories and functional assessment service teams. You don't want to miss her remarks. She's a fabulous speaker. And let's see, I'm going to go ahead and launch an evaluation poll that we will have for each of our sessions. If you would please be so kind as to give us your feedback on this afternoon session, to help you recap whether for the first question, it was to engage participants in an interactive discussion using personas to explore how well we are serving the needs of Santa Clara's diverse population, and to gather information and ideas for how we can improve planning and service delivery. So those are your session objectives. And I think I'm going to turn it back to Marcia for some closing comments.
I just want to ask Liz Deep if she's calling in from a cruise ship or if she's back home.
No, I'm home, you silly woman.
And Marcia popped off my screen. Is Marcia still with us?
I'm here. And I'm
there you go. Sorry.
Even unmuted now. No, but this was a good discussion. I really liked what we talked about in our room, and there are lots of ideas for the problem solving part, and I'm excited about the fact that once this is all documented, we can dive into that problem solving. And tomorrow will be shelter.